Hello all, I'm Roberto Jordan, the president of Sundiata African American Culture Association. We're the producers of Festival Sundiata, the festival that you love to come to each and every year at Seattle Center. This year, in 2021, we're going to be at Seattle Center, and we're going to do it on Juneteenth, June 19th and 20th, 2021. Normally, you'll see our people on stage entertaining you. You'll see their work that you come and look at, and there will be exhibits that are there. And you never really get to know them as people. And the fact that they're not really getting paid to be out there. They're doing it for the community. And so now what we want to do is we want to give a build up to our festival that's coming up. So we're going to give you an intimate look into them as people. We're going to be doing interviews with them that you guys can have a look at and see exactly how these folks are. They love Black folks. These brothers and sisters are some people that you would really want to get to know in real life. So that's what we're going to do, give you a chance to get to know them in real life. We're going to dedicate our festival to Muhammad Sabo. He's a brother that was with us for at least 20 years that passed away in 2019. This brother gave up everything that he could for the festival. He would perform, he would bring music equipment, he would run stages, he would do all these certain things. So we're going to dedicate the festival to him. This is a festival that you don't want to miss because hopefully COVID will be over and you'll be able to get out there and enjoy yourself. Right now, we did it electronically because we wanted to respect the virus. But we want you to show up June 19th and 20th, 2021 at Seattle Center for Festival Sundiata Black Arts Fest and enjoy Festival Sundiata Spotlight.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Celestine Berry-Smith with the Festival Sundiata Committee, and I am excited to be here this evening for the Festival Sundiata Spotlight featuring Eugenie Jones. Hi, Eugenie, welcome.
Hi, Celestine. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I have some really great questions to ask you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your answers. I've seen you and heard you sing, so this is going to be amazing.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All righty. All right, so why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in music?
Okay. Well, I've been involved in music. My first recording was released in 2013, and I began singing professionally in 2011. My first paid gig was 2011.
Oh.
And you hear artists say, well, I started when I was 4 years old. I started playing the piano and I was virtuoso and all those kinds of things. My story is very different. My mother, I grew up with listening to my mother sing in church choirs. She had a very beautiful soprano voice. She sang around the house all the time. She spent the last 7 years of her life with us here in the Seattle area. And then I lost her to cancer. And there was this kind of void. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But after a time, I realized I missed hearing her sing around the house. I missed other things too, but just that sound of her around the house. And I asked myself, and I wonder if I can carry on that part of her. I'd never, been like an aspiring singer or anything like that. I participated in church events because I was made to. You grew up in a Black church, you basically were told what you were going to be doing. Yes. But I was a contentious child, and I sat in the back row of choir throwing spitwads at my brothers and sisters. So I really had no ambition in this direction. But that drama in my life created this sense of wanting to be connected to my mother, and that led me into getting involved in leadership teams at worship and church. And from there, and that wasn't really fulfilling because they had me in the background, and I'm not a background person, I'm a leader, I'm a follower. And so that lasted for a short time. And then I started going to vocal jams in Seattle. And that really was my start, realizing amazingly, I didn't really realize I even had a voice to sing, to tell you the truth. I would hear my voice and I would hear it and I would think, wow, that's me. And one thing led to another. I started booking my own gigs, pursuing my own gigs, hiring artists and to work with me. And then after I started performing, the next question was, I wanted to capture what was happening in my life as a chronicle to pass on to my children as to what their mother was doing, you know. And so that led to me recording. And then one domino fell after another for me to be to where I'm at right now. But it was never a concerted plan, you know, like I had this life path of this is what I'm going to be when I grow up kind of thing. So I'm always amazed at that.
Thank you so much for that. And it sounds like your mother gave you a wonderful gift through her singing.
Yes, in more than one way. I also got her cooking ability. Out of all the 5 sisters, I'm the best cook. You hear that, sis?
Nice. I'm sure they'll be getting with you after this. So thank you for that. So in your opinion, as an artist, what do you think Festival Sundiata means to the community, and how long have you been involved with Festival Sundiata?
I became friends on Facebook with some of the organizers, and I basically started pulling on their coattails to say, hey, I'd like to perform, you know, and invited them to check out my music. And so that was my first awareness of it and getting involved in it. I've performed now 3 times over the course of the years. I didn't perform one year, but I've done it 4 times now, 3 times now. One year I didn't over the past 4 years. And what it's meant for me is that it's been an opportunity for me to be able to see a lot of people of color, because a lot of the times that I perform, I'm not seeing people of color in the venues that I'm performing at. And this festival is one occasion where there's lots of people of color. And it makes me feel, I don't know, kind of like you're at home, you know?
Yes.
Kind of like you went back home or something. I don't know a lot of people, but you still have that sense of connection. And so I really enjoy feeling like I'm a part of the community through this festival.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how would you define yourself as an artist, and who inspired you?
How would I define myself? I would say my definition of my artistry is the fact that I'm multi-talented, in that I'm a singer, but I'm also a songwriter. A lot of my recordings are original music. And because I had to produce, I learned how to do that as well. And I'm also an organizer. So I organize events like the Jackson Street Jazz Walk for the past 2 years now. This will be our 3rd year. I've been the organizer behind that event, hiring 12 to 15 different bands, collaborating with Pratt Fine Arts Center in support of that, and also bringing business to those restaurants that are up and down Jackson, because the venues, they act as venues, and the artists come in and perform there and draw business into those, draw them new business into their venues too. So it's a cross-representational thing that it benefits a lot of people. And also, because I have a background in nonprofits, I wanted it to have a benefit to the community. So I attached food donations as admission to get into the Jazz Walk. And those donations then are given to Northwest Harvest. So as an artist, singer, songwriter, producer, event organizer, and having a background in marketing, my undergrad and graduate degrees are in marketing, and I work in that field professionally. All those things have helped me to further my career. If I had to rely on someone else to do any facet of that, I don't believe I would have gotten as far as I've gotten at this point in my career.
Right. Well, I just have to say that Jackson Street Jazz is an amazing thing. My hat is off to you, and it is very reminiscent of past jazz for African Americans here in Seattle. So I absolutely,
Exactly.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I felt like it was really important to carry on that legacy of Quincy Jones, Ray Charles, Ernestine Anderson. You really get a sense sometimes as an African American artist that people forget where jazz started, that it started with our people.
Yes.
And we're fighting as African Americans for our chance to be in the spotlight. And so the Jackson Street Jazz Walk was my way of carrying on the legacy laid down behind those incredible icons and giving myself and other artists like me an opportunity to be heard and to polish our craft.
Yes, I agree, and thank you for it. So what character traits do you feel you have that have served you best in your recording and performance career?
Well, one of my favorite words is grit. And, John Wayne, True Grit, that movie. I feel like I got that from my father. He grew up in Alabama during the Depression, and he was a coal miner for the majority of his life, worked hard to create a station for himself in his life and to create a home and a family environment for us. And he was a Christian, he was a believer. So he passed all that on to me. You have to have grit, and you have to have resilience, and you have to have confidence in yourself to be in this industry, because you will not get that from other people. And if anybody's out there listening and they're thinking, this is something I want to do, I say, shore up your spine and have confidence in your own ability, because that's the most critical thing, is to believe in yourself and to have the discipline to do the work necessary for you to do the things that you want to do.
Absolutely. Great advice. Thank you. So, as an African American living in times of Black Lives Matter, do you feel like your ethnicity has helped or hurt your career?
There have been doors that have been shut to me. And I can't say that it's because of my being Black. But when I look at all the factors and I look at other artists that those doors are open to, for instance, I received Vocalist of the Year from Earshot Jazz with my first CD released. No, it was Recording of the Year for my first, and then Vocalist of the Year for the second. My second CD made it onto Jazz Week Review, which is like the charts for jazz. It made it into the top 25. And I had all these accolades attached, but I couldn't get booked at primary jazz clubs in Seattle. Right. Now, lesser accomplished artists were getting those bookings, but I wasn't. And so what can I attribute that to? I can say maybe it was because I'm Black, or maybe it's because of this, or maybe it's because of that. But at the end of the day, I'm not waiting for someone to give me something, Celeste. I'm not waiting for that to happen. I'm pushing forward to make it happen for myself. And they may look at me and think, well, the blonde, pretty woman is better artist for us. But when I am out there pursuing to get bookings for myself, and I'm selling out clubs in those bookings, why can't I get my foot in the door in other places? Some of those clubs aren't even here anymore. Some of them are shut down. I can't say that I'm sorry about that, because it really didn't impact my career. It's not like I was performing there on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a yearly basis. So my performances came from me going out and knocking on doors and asking over and over and over again, hey, this is my music. This is what I've done. Would you like to listen to it? Would you give me a chance? Radio stations in your area are playing my music. So I didn't stay in Seattle. I started pursuing and pushing for other opportunities, which is why I ended up performing in DC and in New York, the Atlanta Jazz Festival, San Jose Jazz Festival, and other places. Those all started with an ask. It came with packaging myself as a product and my music and saying, here this is, what do you think of it? I'd love to have an opportunity to perform and share my music. And a lot of times the answer was no, or the answer was being ignored and not being answered at all, which is really hard. But at the end of the day, I just picked it up and went on to the next person and asked the next and asked the next. And eventually somebody said yes, and others said yes.
When the rainbow rhythm starts to play, dance with me. ocean hugs the shore. Hold me close, sway me more. Like the flower bending in the breeze. Bend with me, sway with ease. When we dance, you have a way with me. Stay with me, sway with me.
Come on and take me by the hand and lead me to the dance floor where the rhythm can find me, baby, swing me hard. Right there, keep that rhythm tight, break a sweat with me. Who cares what the onlookers see, baby, swing me hard.
You know what, I really appreciate you sharing that, because many times people look at it as successful an artist as yourself and they think it has been easy. They don't realize what went into it. And many times they don't have a chance to say. So I really appreciate your being so candid, because other artists really need to hear it. Thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome. One of the clubs that gave me a chance was a club in Washington, D.C. called Twins. And it's been around for 30 some years. And it was opened by two Ethiopian sisters who their restaurant was to serve Ethiopian food. And they had artists from all over the world performing there. Legendary Shirley Bassey and people like that have been through their doors. And so I pitched myself to them, and she gave me a chance, Kelly, the woman who manages, and I'm sure she looked at me in terms of, can she sing? Does she have stage presence? Yes, I'll give her a chance. And so I traveled across country and to perform there. And people ask me later, you can't be making a lot of money doing that, footing the bill to go to DC, staying there overnight. They can't be paying you that much money. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes the gains are not monetary, they're intrinsic things that you gain. You build your resume, you build your skill set, you build your audience, and you have to take losses financially in order to do that. And those gigs became more gigs. I performed there Valentine's Day 3 years in a row. And it led to other opportunities. And it gave me chances to meet people and to interact with artists that I never would have met, that I never would have had a chance to play with. And I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear. Thank you. So how has COVID impacted your music, and where do you see the future of music going while COVID remains a concern?
COVID has been very challenging. I thank God that I have a day job that I can telecommute, so I work from home. And my job, ironically, was only 5 minutes away from my house anyway, so it was kind of funny. So now you're working at home. And so that was an easier enough transition to make, but my music has suffered as a result of that. And I think more than anything, it's hard on your heart and your soul, because this isn't about getting up and singing a song. It's about getting up and sharing a piece of you. And then someone in the audience looks back at you and they get it, and they are sharing that experience with you. And it is a tremendous, gratifying experience to have that opportunity to share your craft, to know that it's touching people and them to respond to it, and then tell you verbally afterwards, wow, I love that, or I play that song every day. When I get up in the morning, it makes me change my attitude. So those things have been lost because of COVID. And I'm an engaging artist. I'm looking into people's eyes. I'm trying to tell them something.
Right.
It's hard for me to connect with the virtual stuff that people are doing. And so I haven't really rushed out to go and make that happen, though I do have some of those coming up in the next couple of months. So I just had to get up off my hinder parts and start figuring out another way to make myself feel fulfilled. And so I'm working on a project, and that will probably be released in the fall or spring of next year. And that has allowed me to exercise my creative juices. And like I said, I'll do some of the virtual stuff. I think that COVID will be a part of our history at some point, and I'm looking forward to that. And in the meantime, I'm just trying to continue to grow as an artist and use this time to go to the woodshed, so to speak, you know, where you polish your skills and hone your skills as much as you can, even though you're not necessarily practicing them.
Right, right. Thank you. So I understand you said before that you're a singer, songwriter, and event producer. But as a jazz singer, isn't there an expectation that you primarily record jazz standards? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, there is an expectation, and it's like a double-edged sword, because on one hand, industry expects you to record the music that was recorded at the Great American Songbook from, you know, the 20s through the 60s. They expect to hear that stuff, and I do some of those songs. I do love some of that stuff. But when it comes to recording and paying to use someone else's song as opposed to writing my own song and having ownership of that song, I'm going to lean towards that side, because I have a voice, I have ideas, I have stories that I want to tell. And more importantly, what most people don't even stop and think about, and this is important, the Great American Songbook is primarily written by people who were doing the great heyday of jazz. Broadway, they were writing plays for Broadway, they were writing scores for Broadway musicals. And most of those people were not African American.
Yeah.
They were not African American. Now, why do you suppose there were no African Americans out there writing plays and doing scores for Broadway musicals? Why do you suppose that was? We all know why it was, because racism was just as prevalent back there as it is now. And we are perpetuating that legacy by continuing to do nothing but sing those songs over and over again that do not represent African Americans in that day. Now, there were some artists that did write music that are part of the Great American Songbook, but they are a very small fraction of those people. So when it comes to, I think you should have pride in your own stuff. Write your own material. Copyright your own material. Who knows where it may end up someday? You can pass it on to your children. It may end up being a legacy for one of your grandchildren someday, that someone buys it for a movie or something like that. I'd rather keep that legacy in my family, honor the gifts that God gave me, rather than just continuing to sing what somebody else sang back in 1920.
Good points. Thank you. So I don't know that many
think about
people think about it that way.
No, I don't think people do.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a while ago about how you interact with the audience and want very much to give them something that they can take away from your music. Can you tell me what have been your favorite venues or events to perform at, and what was your most moving performance? What did it mean to you?
So I have a song that was on my first CD called A Good Day. And I wrote this song, part of it, the hook to it anyway, came to me while driving to work one morning. And I came up over this crest and I saw the mountains out of my left window, and the sky was blue and the sun was bright. And things were just kind of good. You know, in that moment where you just feel like life is good. Just feeling that emotion. And the phrase, life couldn't be better, came to my mind, and that became the hook in this song. And the song says, today is a good day, a day full of promise. And it talks about the affirmations and the good things that we somehow overlook and take for granted in life. And I was hesitant to include that song in my first CD, because I thought one part of it is that that prayer that we say as kids, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep, if I die before I wake. That was a part of it. And I thought, well, people are not going to like hearing that, because some people don't believe in God, and some people are going to take exception to that, and maybe I shouldn't put it in there. But at the end of the day, when you put your head to your pillow at night, you have to be true to who you are. And if they accept you, wonderful. If they don't, at least you know that you were true to yourself in that process. And that song has been downloaded on All About Jazz I think something like 4,000 times now since it was originally posted and put up on their site. And I've had so many people talk to me about the fact that how much that song has meant to them and how much they love and enjoy it. So I'm proud of that. I'm happy about that, to know that I give something that makes people feel better. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that's got to be a great feeling. Absolutely. So, how do you want to be remembered as an artist?
So, there's so many aspects of who I am. I'm a very strong-willed person, and I'm very hardworking, and I push and I push and I push. And sometimes people don't like that. They rather you be, more laid back and acquiescing, and I want to be remembered as someone who had an aspiration and pushed hard to make it happen. I may not be some world-renowned star or whatever, but at the end of the day, I know my mother is proud of me.
Yeah.
I know that. I know my family's proud of me, and I believe that I've been true to my craft. And so that's how I would like to be remembered.
Thank you. That's amazing. I love it. You mentioned some virtual projects coming up. What do you have as projects coming up, and what's next for you?
I am going to be recording a virtual performance for the Bellevue Jazz and Blues Festival. And so I'm greatly looking forward to that. The Bellevue Downtown Association sponsors that event every year. And I'm also going to be doing a virtual with the Jackson Street Jazz Walk this year, organizing that. Vulcan Inc. is sponsoring us for that, as well as a number of businesses and private donors in the community. A lot of people step up and sponsor bands for those performances. So I'm looking forward to recording that performance and providing that for people. I'm kind of thinking about a winter solstice kind of thing for that this year, since we didn't get to, do the summer thing. So those are things that are coming up. And most important for me is to be able to release my next body of work that I've been working at for a couple of 2 or 3 years now. So I'm looking forward to being able to complete that.
Okay. Give us a little hint of what that's going to look like, perhaps?
Oh, a little hint. I can tell you this, it's going to be original music.
All right, now.
Some standards will be in there too. And what I really am trying to do when I choose a standard this time around is to choose something that's very esoteric and not been overdone. So I'm looking forward to accomplishing that with this project too, and working with some amazing people. So you guys are going to have to stay tuned for that.
And we will, absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you for being so candid and open and warm. I'm looking forward to more from you and to following you as I have in the past. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celestine. It's wonderful to see you. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Won't you stop it, take a little time out with me, or just take 5. I'll stop your busy day and take the time to see that I am alive. And I'm going out of my way just to pass by each day, and not a single word do we say. It's part of mine and not a play, and I feel like eyes meet. I feel tingles down to my feet. When you smile, that's too discreet, sends me on my way. Hey, wouldn't it be better not to be so polite? You could offer a light. I'll start a little conversation now. It's alright. Or just take 5. Hey, yeah. See, baby.
Bye.
Bye-bye.